On this week's edition of Connecticut Naturalist, Will is doing some spring cleaning, organizing his tapes, and finding never-before-seen footage of dragonflies. A queen bee starts a new hive. We'll see giant millipedes with hundreds of legs from last summer. This cicada has been underground for 7 years. Finally, it emerges as an adult. After the insect review, we'll take a look at some unreleased heron footage. Then we visit some newborn goats at Cherry Grove Farm in Newtown. A pheasant practically knocks on Will's door. Red-winged blackbirds are back for the spring. And a nocturnal flying squirrel makes an appearance in the daylight. All this and more on this week's edition of Connecticut Naturalist. Hello friends, I'm Will Michael and you're watching the Connecticut Naturalist. Spring is just around the corner and soon the area behind me will be filled with green. I'm doing some spring cleaning, going through and organizing my tapes. There's a lot of footage that's never aired. Now let's see, what do we have? Insects, dragonflies, etc. Well, let's take a look at this footage. At the pond in the summertime, hundreds of dragonflies can be seen. Males compete for territory over the water. After breeding, the female dips the tip of her abdomen into the water, washing off the eggs as they are pushed out. They seem to lay their eggs on glistening objects. Dragonflies are the best flyers on Earth. They can fly in any direction. When no females are present, males engage in 3 activities: perching, chasing, or patrolling. A male will perch on the branches near the shore and watch the others across the pond. When another male enters his territory, he will leave the perch and chase the intruder away. Sometimes the male patrols the area. He'll fly slowly around the territory and then return to his perch. Males show their dominance by raising their abdomens 70 degrees from the horizontal position. Male dragonflies have brightly colored abdomens, while females are more camouflaged. Larvae hatch after about 10 days. They overwinter underwater. Depending on the temperature and food supply, larvae may stay in the water for more than 1 winter. When they mature, the larvae crawl 2 to 20 feet away from the pond edge and molt. The adult emerges out of a slit in the back. Adults enter the forest and hunt insects for 2 to 3 weeks. Then they return to the pond and breed. The cycle is repeated. The shoulder of a human is sometimes used by dragonflies as a perch. As I'm filming the dragonflies, I notice this giant water beetle floating on the pond surface. This specimen is dead, and that's why it was floating. Giant water beetles are predators and feed on other insects. That concludes our dragonfly segment. Let's see what else is on here. Honeybees. Rare swarm of honeybees following a new queen. Well, let's take a look at this. This is one of my best finds while out filming in the forest. These honeybees are swarming around a queen bee. Sometime in spring or summer, a new queen bee will leave behind the hive and start a new honeybee colony. She takes with her a group of workers and drones. Workers are sterile females, and drones are males. In spring, the queen lays eggs and the workers tend them. Eggs hatch in 3 days. The larvae are fed by the workers, and after about 6 days, pupation begins. 12 to 14 days later, the metamorphosis is complete from larva to mature bee. Queen bees develop from normal worker larvae that are fed special food. This swarm of bees will soon follow the queen to a new location where a hive will be constructed, perhaps inside a hollow tree. If you're wondering the difference between bees and wasps, bees gather all their food from pollen, while wasps also hunt other insects. In future episodes, we'll be examining the inside of the honeybee hive. But for now, we've got to continue cleaning. What's this say? Millipede. Giant millipede. Look at this beautiful giant millipede. You'll notice that he has hundreds of legs. Millipedes have 2 pair of legs per body segment. That's a total of 4 legs per segment. Millipedes are herbivores and feed on decaying plant material. Sometimes millipedes are confused with centipedes. Centipedes have only 1 pair of legs per body segment. They are carnivorous and feed on other insects. That's why people are afraid of being bit by a centipede. This millipede does not bite, it poses no harm, but it may secrete a foul-smelling fluid as a defense. As he crawls away, you can see these hundreds of legs moving together in a wave-like rhythm. If you can't remember which has more legs, the millipede or centipede, just look at their names. Milli comes from the Latin word for 1,000. Centi comes from the Latin word for 100. And there he goes, back under the carpet of sticks on the forest floor. From a distance, this millipede looks like an earthworm as it wriggles back down underground. Speaking of insects, I'm out here and the weather's starting to get warm. A few flies are beginning to come out. Now let's see. Cicada and other night insects. Segment to submit to National Geographic. This cicada is emerging from its larval shell on a basil plant. As nymphs, cicadas dwell underground and feed on juices from plant roots. They can stay underground for periods that range from 1 to 20 years, depending on the species. Mature nymphs tunnel to the surface and crawl onto a tree or another supportive surface. The winged adult emerges from a slit in the back of the exoskeleton. Adults fly into the branches of trees and feed on sap from twigs. Males produce a long buzzing sound to attract females. Females lay eggs in slits they make in tree twigs. When the eggs hatch, the nymphs fall to the ground and burrow underneath. The slits the female makes often kills the twigs. If you see bunches of brown leaves among the greenery of the tree, that may be a clue that the tree has harbored cicada nymphs. Many insects are active at night. This is a fish fly. Fish flies are from an ancient order of insects. They are sloppy flyers and often crash into things, or fly directly into the water and drown themselves. All these insects are being attracted to me as I'm out looking through my insect footage. Let's see what we have here. Caterpillars. Tiger swallowtail, woolly bear, and unidentified Alaskan caterpillar. I do remember that. This unusual looking caterpillar is a tiger swallowtail larva. It took me a long time to identify this because of the brown coloration. When the swallowtail caterpillar first hatches, they are brown and white. As they grow, they turn green. This caterpillar is still brown, but if you look closely, you'll notice green pigment beginning to spread below the yellow stripe. Notice the false eyes on the front side of the caterpillar. It creates the illusion that he is much larger and more dangerous than he actually is. Soon this worm-like creature will metamorphosize into a magnificent yellow and black butterfly. The woolly bear caterpillar is easy to identify. They overwinter as caterpillars and build a cocoon in the spring or summer. The woolly bear turns into the Isabella tiger moth. The moth has a yellowish-brown color. There's a legend that claims that the harshness of winter can be predicted by the size of the brown stripe on the woolly bear. However, the stripe size simply depends on the age of the caterpillar. The older the woolly bear, the larger the stripe. Woolly bear caterpillars feed on dandelions, plantain, and other low-growing plants. Here's a caterpillar I found while I was in Alaska. I don't know what species this is, but it looks like a black and yellow version of our Connecticut woolly bears. So let's see, what else do we have? Insects. Oh, it's Edgar Eagle. Edgar's getting jealous because all we're looking at is insect footage. Yes, we have some bird footage that has been previously unreleased. So since we're cleaning, before we begin our adventure for the day, we may as well take a look now. This blue heron is hunting in the Housatonic River in the morning. He stands still and walks stealthily through the water, looking for fish. Herons will also eat amphibians, snakes, small mammals, or insects. A heron would have a feast in a vernal pool. Hopefully, he won't discover where I filmed the salamanders. The heron uses its beak like a dagger, stabbing down through the water. Look how the gray feathers blend in with the surrounding rocks. Herons are tall birds, and from the side they look heavy. But when the heron turns towards the camera, you'll see how thin it is. It looks abnormal, almost as if it's a tree branch jutting out from the river. He sees something, and there he goes again. I don't think he caught anything. If he did, we would have seen him swallow. After hunting in the stream, the heron flies majestically away. The next bird on our review is a male yellowthroat. The black mask and bright yellow feathers make him an attractive fellow. The yellowthroat is a member of the warbler family, and they build nests on or near the ground in grassy or shrubby areas. His nest is probably close by, and he's out hunting for insects to bring back to his young. I've successfully organized and labeled all my tapes. Now we can begin our adventure. Last week at Cherry Grove Farm in Newtown, baby goats were born. There's nothing cuter than baby goats at play. Let me grab my tapes and we'll be on our way. One of the first signs that spring is approaching is the birth of baby goats. I'm inside the goat barn where there's a total of 5 newborn kids. One of the mothers gave birth to triplets, the other to twins. So when were these goats born?
They're born, maybe a week ago or 4 days ago, something like that.
What type of goats are these?
Well, these are alpines.
Alpine?
Yeah. Heard you.
Goats are one of the smartest animals. They are curious, confident, and playful. Goats have ruminant stomachs. They have special pouches that contain bacteria colonies. The bacteria produce enzymes that can break down cellulose in plants. Cellulose is an extremely complex molecule that animals cannot digest on their own. The bacteria break down the cellulose, and the extra energy that is not used by the bacteria goes to the goat. It's a mutualistic relationship. Goats regurgitate their food and chew their cud in order to help increase the surface area and mix the bacteria into the plant tissue. Since we're at the farm, we'll take a look at the cows. Cows have similar digestive systems as goats. It's a chilly day outside, but here in the cow barn, you can feel the heat given off by these animals. We often take cows for granted and forget about the massive size and strength of these animals. On a cold day like today, I wouldn't mind having a thick coat of fur like this pony has on his head. He's a friendly fellow, and sometimes Eleanor puts braids in his mane. There's always something going on at the farm. Now I'm going to return home and retrace my steps where I encountered a pheasant. I walked out of my front door, and right in my driveway was a beautiful male pheasant. I don't know where he came from, but I'm going to do some investigating. I came out one morning, and there was a male ring-necked pheasant in the middle of my driveway. He must have come from the forest. He walked up my driveway and then into my front yard. My front yard is fenced in, so he became frustrated since he could not find an exit. He jumped over the fence and ran down the street to the river bank. He crossed the river and walked downstream towards the nature center. Here's a look at the pheasant. His plumage is beautiful, with the golden brown feathers, the green head, white collar, and red mask. Females are more camouflage because they sit on the eggs and must avoid being detected by predators. Pheasants don't build nests. Instead, they lay their eggs on the ground, nestled among weeds or grasses. I wonder if this pheasant came to my yard as a result of all the snow we had this winter. I feed the birds on my property, so maybe he was after the seeds. And there he goes, down the bank of the river. His feathers are even more radiant, with the bright sunlight shining on them. I followed the tracks of the pheasant, and coincidentally, it led me right back to the place where I have been filming from. Now I'm going to take a walk and see if there's any signs that spring is near. We'll start off on the swamp trail and see if there's any signs of spring. I see a mourning dove up on the path. Mourning doves spend a lot of time on the ground. They are poor flyers compared to other birds and have a slow takeoff time. Their call is often confused with the sound their feathers make when they fly. That noise you just heard was not produced by the vocal cords of the bird. It's just the feathers pushing the air, creating a sound. I'll continue on my walk. We'll cross this open lot and take a look in the river. Here's two mallard ducks. They're swimming in the waters of March. The riverbank is talking. Spring is about to explode on the scene. January may be the national new year, but March is the naturalist's new year. Red-winged blackbirds have returned from their southern sojourn. They're feeding in the lot, and they are one of the most obvious signs that spring is near. The male redwings have a patch of red and yellow feathers under their wings. Another sign that the season is changing is the emergence of fireflies or lightning bugs. Fireflies come out of dormancy early in March. They're not glowing yet, and they won't glow until the summer. Most people don't see fireflies active in the daytime, but now you know what they look like. If you want to find them, just look on the sides of trees. I usually find them on oaks or maples. I'm continuing my walk, and I've met someone who said yesterday he was out and stumbled upon a flying squirrel nest. So he's going to lead me to the tree, and we'll see if we can find any to film.
When I was here yesterday with my friend, we knocked on this tree, and flying squirrels came out. They jumped on the tree over here to the left, and they flew way over there. And we saw one earlier today, but we're trying to see if any more will come out.
I've never seen an active flying squirrel before, so for me this is incredible. Flying squirrels are actually common in many forests, but they are so rarely seen they may as well be phantoms. Flying squirrels don't fly, they glide. They have a flap of skin on the sides of their bodies that attaches to the front and hind ankles. When they stretch out their legs, they extend the flap of skin. This squirrel was so fast, I didn't film him gliding this time, but in the future, I'll be sure to get it on tape. Flying squirrels can glide over large distances. Scientists say there's a 1-to-3 ratio of vertical feet to horizontal feet. That means that for 1 foot of vertical distance, the squirrel can fly 3 feet horizontally. If a squirrel jumped from a 100-foot tree, it could easily fly a distance of 300 horizontal feet. When landing, the squirrel lowers its flat tail and raises its paws, creating resistance, much like an airplane, and it lands softly on another tree. They steer themselves by tightening or loosening the flaps of skin on either side. Although this squirrel is small, it's a voracious predator. Flying squirrels will eat baby mice, voles, bird eggs, and baby birds, carrion, as well as nuts, seeds, and berries. That flying squirrel was the highlight of the walk. In future episodes, I'll stake out the territory and try to capture their nocturnal activity. Speaking of nocturnal animals, tonight I'll be joining an owl photographer as he calls in barred owls to see if he can photograph them. A few more hours and it'll be dark, so I'm excited. I can't wait. Now I'm returning home, back the same way I came, across the field and through the swamp trail. I'll check my mailbox and see if I've gotten any letters from viewers. What do we have here? Some fan mail. Let's see what it says. Dear Will, I saw your program 2 weeks ago. I would like to participate in your photo contest, but I don't have a camera. I have a dog that smiles when it's pet. Smiling dog. Sounds different. Let's take a look. This is Goldie, the smiling golden retriever. When her master pets her, she actually smiles. Look how her lips curl up just like a human's. I don't want to anthropomorphize, but this dog must be happy. If you have any unusual pets, feel free to send me emails or photos. I'm always looking for new animals for the program. As the crocus flowers close for the evening, I prepare to go on the owl search with my friend Paul, the owl photographer. I'm going to stop talking now. Just listen as Paul calls the owls and they respond. I apologize for the poor audio quality. This camera doesn't have too good of a microphone, but at least you get to hear the call of the barred owl, and in the future we'll get better audio and better footage. Now 2 owls are answering back. It's a breeding pair. Listen to the mating call of the owls. It sounds like the quack of a duck. Now that we know there's a breeding pair of owls here, I'll be able to locate them and film them for future episodes. This brings us to the end of this week's episode. I'm Will Michael, and you've been watching the Connecticut Naturalist. Just behind the camera, I hear some chipmunks. They've emerged from hibernation. Stay tuned next week as we continue to document local wildlife in the springtime. A lot of animals have returned.
Dandelion seeds floating in the air, reflections of my soul. How much do you know? Make a wish and blow on a twinkling starlit night. Your words we will carry on a magical journey. Dandelion seeds floating in the air. Ooh, Dandelion seeds, where do you roam? The world is so big, the future is unknown. Mysteries begin with the start of each new dawn. Each second leads to the solution. It won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long. Before I'm gone, before I'm gone, before I'm gone. Wander around at the place where I used to play, fetching dandelions, blowing them away. Look at all the seeds as they dance around in space. Time marches on, but they never act with haste. It won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long. Before I'm gone, before I'm gone, before I'm gone. But it's you